Welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, my name is Forrest Parker. I'm the Director of Conservation and Communications for the Union Sportsmen Alliance, and really glad that you're here watching us right now. Get rid of my sunglasses because the sun's not shining, uh, and making a little history tonight. So, if you're familiar with the Union Sportsmen Alliance or not, we are the only union-centric conservation group out there. And in essence, in a nutshell, our goal is to unite the union community through conservation. So you're going to learn a lot more about that through these episodes in the weeks to come. And we really are doing this, our new podcast series, which is titled Heritage and Hardhats, for just that purpose. We want to celebrate the wonderful men and women of labor and throughout, and all the partners and friends of the Union Sportsman Alliance that help us grow and be who we are. And I couldn't be more excited to kick this off with such a fantastic first episode. So some of you may recognize me from our series Brotherhood Outdoors, which for 13 years was on national network television, and recently has moved strictly to digital, primarily YouTube. So we really hope you're checking that out. So I'm really excited to be a part of this and kind of bring all this together. And we want you to know, whoever you are, whether you're a member, non-member, or whatever, if you aren't a member, please join. But most importantly, stay with us, bear with us, engage with us, because we're doing this podcast and all this content because our goal is to really be able to tell the world and our membership and potential members and everyone else kind of more about us, and really celebrate the people that make us who we are, and the people that are really, really special. So I couldn't be more excited on the first one to be doing this with a really special person to us. Many of you are probably going to know him, and those that don't are going to learn a lot about him. He's a stand-up dude, and he's a really big stand-up dude at that. But Mr. Joe Tafoya, former NFL player, I couldn't be happier. You guys are watching him on Brotherhood Outdoors as we speak. And my man, how you doing, Joe?
Hey, glad to be part of the show, man.
Man, I couldn't imagine doing one without you, honestly. So happy you're
This is gonna
here.
be great.
Yeah,
First episode, right?
yeah, number one. So yeah, you get to be a part of all the
What an
mistakes and
honor.
yeah, exactly, man. So I'm so glad to have you because I know you're probably going to cut me a little slack until we get off the camera, and then you won't cut me any slack. So that's really what I appreciate about you. So I think Charlie's got something queued up a little bit on your episode. Recently, you took a trip to Florida with our CEO for Brotherhood Outdoors, and I think we're going to go ahead and roll that because I know we're going to be talking about it. So we may as well roll it because we got a lot to talk about, right?
Roll it up. What a
Yeah,
fun experience.
yeah. So there's a reason that I'm rolling this, Joe, starting out because I want to make sure that our listeners understand
I think I lost audio. I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I couldn't hear the audio. Did you hear the audio?
Well, I
So
said it, so I know what it was.
yeah, so they handed you the what?
They handed me this giant Shaka Zulu type spear, man, and I was standing there like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? And they told me I was going to go out and do something unique to the area, which was we were going to go and try and find a boar. They had these dogs, the dogs had the radio collar and they had like the Kevlar vests, and they would send the dog out, and the dog would find a boar, go out, grab it by the ear, try and pin it on the ground. My job was to come in with this giant spear and come stab it right behind the shoulder blade. Now, I
Yeah.
grew up in California, all right? we we don't even have boar out there. I live up in the Pacific Northwest right now. This was all brand new.
Yeah, well, there's actually quite a few hogs in California, but they're in certain spots. It's actually loaded up. But yeah, now where is it you live now?
I live up in Redmond, Washington, which is up in the Pacific Northwest of near Seattle, home of Microsoft and Boeing and a lot of other huge industry. Lots of money up here, some decent weather at times, but a lot of good fishing and hunting up here.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really important, for I want to learn a little more about you, but I want the audience also to learn about you. And I obviously, you spend a significant amount of time in the NFL, and so maybe just give us a quick rundown of what that looked like and kind of that journey and kind of what brings you to here. And then I want to talk a little bit more about your heritage also.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I grew up in California and went to school at Pittsburgh High School. That's out in the East Bay near Oakland. One of the best programs around. We won a state title in '91, and then went back to state again and lost to a team named De La Salle, who won on like a 300 game winning streak. So a lot of good sports, great community to grow up in, and I got a scholarship to the University of Arizona, which I went to in '96 to 2001. Went to the Holiday Bowl and beat up on Nebraska. We went 12-1 that year and didn't even make it to the damn Rose Bowl. One of the best teams in Arizona history, or the best team in Arizona history. I was proud to be captain and part of that one. Got drafted by Tony Dungy out to Tampa Bay. So I spent just a little bit of time in Florida. And when I got there, they had a monster defense. I mean, we're talking Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp and John Lynch, like legendary guys. When I got there, I was just this little 7th round draft pick. Quite an eye-opening experience. You go from being high man on the totem pole to the very bottom. And I broke my ankle and went off and got picked up by Chicago, played 3 years in Chicago, went to the Super Bowl with Seattle, and then I ended my career in Arizona with the Arizona Cardinals. So I kind of went full circle,
Yeah, I
but
got you.
just a great experience. And, being part of that brotherhood and part of that community is just a once in a lifetime opportunity for a young man that comes out of the ghettos. And I really enjoyed myself, made some lifelong friends, had some wonderful experiences, some not so good ones too. When I said we went to the Super Bowl, we ended up losing to Pittsburgh. So that's a very memorable thing. So these young men that are on their way to the Super Bowl right now, I can relate in some way to the journey that they're on. And yeah, now I'm out here in the Pacific Northwest. We've got a farm. I got 20 acres with goats and chickens and horses, and I couldn't be further away from the hood than where I am right now.
Well, that sounds awesome, but I got to ask you a question because I have a couple friends, and I come from a really rural community in western North Carolina and the southern Appalachians, right? Where,
Okay.
you play all sports. I mean, you got to drive 50 miles to find a school that's 2A, right? So real small, you play baseball, you play football, you play it all. And, in communities like that, yeah, you have some great athletes. All the cream always rises, but often you're playing so much, you're spread out, you're spread too thin, you're not really focusing on one sport. So I've always been pretty entertained and interested with a lot of my pro buddies when I ask them, what's the one thing when you went into the league, what's the one major difference in the game that was there one major difference that caught you off guard, or what was the one thing that stood out like, wow, this is different, this is not college anymore?
Yeah, in college, you can always find that one guy that you can beat. There's always that one guy or two, maybe three, sometimes depending on which team you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
But in the pros, those guys don't exist. Everyone's
Right.
good. And
Yeah.
the speed of the game is twice that of college. And I'm talking offensive linemen all the way to the corners and wide receivers. Everyone's fast except Tom
Yeah.
Brady.
He's just good,
You're
right?
just good. Yeah.
He's just good. Yeah,
So that
but
was the
that's what.
major difference for me. Yeah.
Well, so far, all three or four guys that I've talked to about that all said speed. It's just so fast. It's like college was almost slow motion for some of them compared to what they're seeing. That's pretty interesting. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And you know what?
Uh,
And when I go back and I watch the games as a spectator and a fan, the collisions are so violent. I don't remember
oh,
them being that violent. Now that
no,
I'm older and I got all these injuries, I watch these young men hitting each other. They're like two rams out on the field, just
crushing,
bang. And then
just
next thing you
crushing.
know, they're getting right back up and like nothing happened. I don't remember
You
it that
know,
way.
it's funny you mention that because I haven't been a huge sports fan my whole life. I was a college basketball fan early, but I have started watching football a lot more in the past couple years, and primarily because I feel like it brings a little normalcy to my life. Like it gives me something that, and this sounds crazy because I got buddies that won't even let their kids stay at the house when there's a game on. Like they're that serious
Yeah.
about their team. Like I'm not. For me, watching sports especially a good long football game is kind of lets me decompress because I'm the guy now that can't turn on any of the outdoor type channels, or I can't watch hunting and fishing programs without being fully invested or be thinking and my brain be wired up. So
Hmm.
football's kind of been my thing, and it's funny you mentioned that because I asked myself the same question a couple weeks ago. I was like, man, these folks are crushing each other. Like, and these old boys are getting wrecked, and then they're just rolling it up and giving the first down mark like we got it, baby. I'm like, how are you
Yeah.
not dead, bro? Like,
Well,
I
the
mean,
normal human being would be dead. And I'll tell you what,
right.
I was at my peak, I was about 275 pounds and I could run a 4.6 in the 40. You wouldn't want to see me coming. I was
Oh,
one of
no
these guys
doubt.
that I was a defensive end, outside linebacker, and, fast, but not elite fast, big, but not huge, just a solid football player. I'd
Yeah.
run up on anybody and give them the full force. But I'll tell you what, now that I'm 43 years old, I feel
Mm-hmm.
every one of those damn hits.
I
So these
bet you.
guys, they might get up and give the first down, but hopefully they're getting up when they're 43.
Yeah. Well, I can only imagine because I mean, I know that a guy told me once, an old man said, you'll never go on a sheep hunt that doesn't leave you with an injury that lasts forever. And I'm like,
Mm,
whatever, that ain't nothing. And I mean, I'm a wimp. I mean, I'm
mm.
going sheep hunting. You guys are out there fighting for your lives, And so but he's telling the truth. I mean, so just my body and what I feel like I'm going through already at 41 is like, I can't even imagine, man. So, like, I'm glad you guys start out real big and tough because if y'all weren't, like, I can't imagine how that would
Yeah,
go. But
it's
so
part of
I
it,
got, I
man.
got,
And you do all the training, and you lift all those weights, and you build the bumpers, and a
mm,
lot of good help too. You got elite trainers and staff surrounding yourself, so
yeah.
you always have the best. There's high quality help over there that they help you get back on the field.
Right. Well, you're right. I mean, it's an investment for teams, I'm sure, but I have to ask you. I mean, who you pulling for in the Super Bowl? Got to ask you.
Well, I grew up in the West Coast, and I spent a lot of time in the West divisions. I'm not an AFC fan, so I'm going to go with the Rams.
Gotcha.
Even though I'd like to see the Bengals win, it's been since '88, and the Rams are Los Angeles, and they're new, and it's like kind of flashy. I still want to see them win, representing
Yeah.
the NFC for me.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm
AFC.
yeah. I'm kind of leaning toward the Bengals just because I kind of followed them a little bit as a kid, and I'm like you.
Mhm.
They're kind of a legacy team. They've been around, and I don't know. Everybody's been playing such good football. Honestly, like I've watched a lot of these latest championship games and stuff, and I mean they've all been so good. I'm actually pretty tuned in right now, and so I'm pretty excited about it. But I guess are you guys going to the Super Bowl? Your family?
No, we won't go. There's way too many activities, way too many things to do. You can spend.
And like that, Joe left to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, I mentioned it, and I think he forgot he bought tickets. He peeled out on me. We'll be getting back on for sure. Joe will be back in a second.
Sorry
Uh
about that.
oh. Oh, you're
That
good.
was
You're good.
all me. I was pressing buttons, and all of a sudden I disappeared.
Oh, no sweat, no sweat.
Yeah.
I thought you might have forgot you didn't buy tickets or something, had some
No,
remorse, and was trying to shop or something at the last minute.
there's so many things to do when you go to the Super Bowl. The game almost comes secondary,
Right.
and when I played in that game, it almost feels the same way. You have so many things going on. You got media day, you got to worry about family coming in, tickets. Everybody needs their tickets. You're always trying to get the gear. You want to go to the live events. So it's a big show. It's a lot of money surrounding that whole thing. And it's almost like the game comes secondary. Practice is real light. You don't really practice that much. By this time in the season, everybody's got the game plan down. You just coaches
Oh
spend
yeah.
a lot of time watching film, but you can't really do too much there. And it's a dog and pony show, man. That's what it
Yep.
is. But
Oh yeah. Well, there has to be some of that, right? I mean, it's
mhm.
got to be something for people to buy into. It has to be bigger than the game. Otherwise, it's just a game. So, yeah, I've never been to a Super Bowl. Coolest thing, football related. I did attend. I think maybe the 2019 draft. something like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Whatever year it was in Nashville. I went
Yeah.
with my good buddy Dan Scuda.
Oh, Dan.
Yeah, Dan, man. I went with
He's
Dan.
legendary.
Yeah, Dan's awesome, man. And I don't know if you remember him kicking that shoe, but every time I think of Dan in the NFL, I think about him getting all blowed up and kicking that dude's shoe across the field. But he doesn't like to talk about it a whole lot, but it was awesome. But yeah, I went to the draft, and what I learned at the draft was a couple things. But one of the most primary things in my life that would help me is that when you go somewhere or you're going somewhere with folks from the league or former NFL players, and you need to ask, hey, what's the attire situation like at the meeting or party or venue that we're going to? I got to be honest with you. You may be different, but I made a rule that you never ask an NFL linebacker about fashion, because I asked Dan, hey, buddy, what do we wear? And he's like, oh, man, I'll probably wear some shorts, some sneakers. I'm like, oh, okay, we're just kind of cruising around, chilling, no big deal. And I get to the address he sends me, and damn, dude, there's a red carpet so long.
Mm-hmm.
They got the
Yep.
block shut off in downtown Nashville. Like Broadway shut down, and here's
That's
this red
the
carpet.
award show. You went to the award show.
Well, actually, this was the first round party. It was the
Okay.
first round party, so all the first rounders got invited. I'm pretty sure they were giving a Bentley or something away with these like coated bracelets that were electromagnetic or some crazy stuff. But I straight up went in a pair of shorts and a polo, and I cruised the red carpet, and there's 100 cameras, man. I'll never forget it. I'm a pretty vain dude. Like, I'm an outdoorsman, so I have no problem living on the mountain for 2 weeks, and I might brush my teeth, might not, no big deal. I'm pretty good about it. But when I'm in town, like, I like to be fitting, right? I don't like to be out of the box too bad. And I felt so. Not only was I the smallest dude by like
Right.
60% in the building, right? I was also one of the most underdressed, and it was a brutal moment in my career. And I'll never. Every time I think about it, I get chill bumps from embarrassment.
Thanks, Dan.
Anyway,
Was he wearing shorts too?
Yes,
He
absolutely.
was.
Yes. What are you talking about? It's Scooter, man. Of course,
Yeah.
he's in shorts.
That's what I love about those guys, man. Those linebackers. You want them to. You don't want the guys that dress nice. You want the guys that eat with their hands and bark like a
exactly.
dog. That's what you want.
And I think that's why we get along so well, honestly, if you want me to be honest with you. So here's what I want to know. Before I want to talk a little bit about Florida, obviously, but folks are going to see Florida, right? Like, I want to know a little bit about your experience there, but we really want everyone to kind of hopefully tune in to YouTube and check Brotherhood Outdoors there and kind of catch that journey, and we'll fill in some gaps. But I want to know, like, so outside of football, and I understand, like, what I believe or what I feel is that from all the guys that have been in the league for me, like, it's such a life commitment. Like, it is such you devote your life to that. Like, most guys from little bitty, pee-wee league, all the way up, football, it's all you do because you want to be great at it. And obviously you were great at it. And so, and it paid off. My question is like your love for the outdoors and your connection with nature, and that, where did that come? Like, with what event or people in your life made you say, hey, yeah, I'm a pro athlete, and I got these gigantic goals, and I'm going to go crush these, and I'm really going to shoot for this. But when now looking back, like, you find yourself in the outdoors. Obviously, I want to talk a little bit more about your lifestyle, your family, and all the cool stuff you guys got going on the farm. But I want to know who or what kind of really helped connect you to nature and outdoor heritage, because that's what this podcast is about.
Right.
And that's really what USA is about. Like, our goal, we hope people watch this and they say, hey, there's a guy that obviously dedicated his life to something, but somewhere in there was something that sparked enough, right, to matter. And I think it's those things that we as conservationists, as just as mentors in general, and I think it's important to understand that way we know we're talking to people. Hey, I don't want to be extra lazy. Like, I want to, if someone's new to the sport or new to the outdoors, or have never been outdoors, they're just totally city bound, right? And I have a lot of friends that way too. I want to know, like, am I saying the right things or what things really work? And so it's really interesting to me, the various things that drive us all and what happened, because we're all different. I'm really interested in that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. When I was, I don't know, sometime in my 8 to 10-year-old self, my grandmother had a place out on the lake in Northern California, Clear Lake. And this was the best time in my life. I was fishing on the dock every single day in the summer times. We'd go out on the lake, on the boat, fish catfish. She showed me how to shoot a bow. And it was just really fun and memorable time in my life that was a frequency that I was living on that I always wanted to get back to, and growing up in
Yeah.
the city, it's not something you get to experience, east of Oakland, there's nothing but buildings and housing and so, but my parents, they didn't really spend a lot of time outdoors. Once I had that experience and that one little taste of it, it's just an innate thing, I think, for me. It was something that I always wanted to get back to. So anyone that was fishing or camping, I would jump in with them. I joined the Boy Scouts at a very early age, and it was me seeking it out. And my best friend growing up, his father, he would take us camping and fishing sometimes. And I just remember those were the best times in my life.
Yep.
Fast forward to where I am right now, having lived, multiple lives and, on living on multiple frequencies. I spent a lot of time in locker rooms, in weight rooms, in meeting rooms. I spent time in board rooms, and I just felt too caged up. It just was, my mother, she always promoted my native heritage, and that ability to connect with nature has always just been there. And so when I got to the age where I could make the decision for myself, I said, I want to go back to that frequency where I was living when I was at my happiest. It was my happiest time in life. And I want my children to experience the same thing that I did. So that way, when they get older and whatever path they take, whatever direction they go in life, they'll know that this is something that they can always come back to, which is what I did. And what we're living right now, the way that we're living right now out on the farm, my kids run around barefoot most of the time. I got a creek in my backyard that's got cutthroat trout in it. This is anything and everything I ever would have wanted when I was young. So I'm
Yep.
doing the same thing for them. And really, I just appreciate what I have now. And I appreciate being able to just walk out my back door with my son there. You see the picture of him.
Oh
And
man.
being able to just go out and fish and hunt the land if we want to. And, that's probably the biggest part of my life right now. Not one of them, but sharing that and passing it down to my children.
That's so awesome. It's just, I got chill bumps right now because a couple reasons. First of all, I was blessed. We all were, just like you were, but we come from different stories, right? Different walks of life. It's just the way it goes. And, I was fortunate enough. Um, I, I was fortunate enough to be able to grow up in paradise. So, I was basically a quarter mile from the Great Smoky Mountains National Park boundary. I grew up on the Cherokee Indian Reservation in western North Carolina there. And so my entire playground was the outdoors. I didn't have anything other than horses and dirt bikes for transportation. And so, it's really important to me now that I'm in this position, and my absolute passion, that the one thing that I care about is I just want to share these things with other people, not because I think it's the coolest thing to do or it makes me the coolest or it's even my job, right? Like, I want to share these things because the outdoors, not just hunting, fishing, whatever, but that connection to that open space and that freedom that you get when you're there, and the things that you don't have to worry about when you're there, has been such an important part of my life, an important part of making me who I am and finding the peace to be who I am and not be ashamed of that, because I know that why I do it, what matters to me, it's not the superficial things, you know what I'm saying, that people see sometimes. It's really deep inside. And I can tell already that you have that. And I knew you had that. I've watched that. I can see that through Brotherhood Outdoors. I can see it through the camera. I can see it straight through the Big Joe personality, all that. Like, I know you mean that. And I really appreciate that about you. And it makes me connect with you at a real high level.
Right on.
Yeah. And thing is that your kids they're blessed. They're fortunate to have you, to have the career you've had, the opportunities
Thank
you
you.
have, because you could just as easily be,
Yeah.
downtown somewhere in a condo or wherever,
Or
still
pushing
living your,
sports or,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, still living your best
go
life,
after
and
the
there's
money.
nothing wrong. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. But you
Right.
found something that really matters to you, and now it matters to you that your kids have the opportunity to at least experience it. So whatever aspects of their lives that their outdoor heritage kind of come into play, it's their choice, right? But now they know, and that's what's so special. So the reason that it just kind of gives me chill bumps is, you mentioned, was it your grandmother, her
Grandmother,
house
yes.
there on Clear Lake?
Yep.
You know, we put, I think, right at 20,000 kids or a little more through some of our outreach programs, since 2017. And,
Yeah, I heard about that.
yeah, fishing. I mean, every year we put thousands and thousands of kids on the water, and we have some fantastic partners and supporters that make sure they have enough gear that they get to take it home. And so, in this business, you receive sometimes even some criticism, like, well, if you go out and you do this one event this one day, and you take these, you provide this opportunity for these kids to come fishing that may never fished before, whatever, our one day events may or may not work, and so I like it because everyone in the industry is really motivated to recruit, R3, we call it recruitment,
Hmm.
retention, reactivation. But the recruitment aspect of this for youth is super, super important to me. And I love the fact that women played such a role in that, whether they intended to or not, because what we
Right.
find at a lot of our events, which are often in more urban areas, right, is that some of the greatest testimonies and the most fulfilling moments of my career, not just at USA, but my career, have been at some of these events where there may be 200-300 kids, and at 7:30 in the morning there's a minivan out there, and it's way early. They're an hour and a half early for registration, and finally, a lady comes out or something, and you realize that she's there with her grandkid, right? So a lot of these events, it's the grandmothers, it's the single
Hmm.
mothers that are coming to these events, right? And one particular grandmother in Kentucky, she was there early because her kid had kept asking, her grandson, I'm sorry, had kept asking, hey, I really like to go fishing, and she didn't have the means to purchase the fishing equipment. So the sole reason that she was there that day was to receive that free fishing gear, so that way she could continue to take her grandson fishing. And it's those things that
That's
most of us,
beautiful.
we don't ever think about that, right?
No.
So now, not everybody's in that position. Everybody's story is different, right? But
Hmm.
people would be amazed in our daily lives as we go through life saying, "Oh, it's all good," whatever, and we're not thinking about that. There are literally people that cannot go fishing for a single day because they can't afford the gear, and so it's a really special thing. And I love hearing you about how
Yeah.
your grandmother took
That
part in
that's
that.
one of the things I love about union sportsmen is you guys get so much more by giving, and you guys do such a wonderful job of that. And I support everything that you all are doing, and especially when you're talking about giving back to the kids. Something very near and dear to my heart. I hope to work with you guys soon on a project up here in the Pacific Northwest. A lot of these kids, this may be their one and only time going fishing, but you know
Right.
what? It'll be a memorable experience, and it'll be something that they can log in their memory bank on the happy category, right? Something they had fun doing. It was unique. It was different enough, and maybe something that they want to get back to later on for themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just really inspired by your story because it kind of gives
Hmm.
me a little more energy to take another step forward with those,
That's
because
great.
being able to go to a place like that with your grandmother while living in the city, really it proves that just those small opportunities, those experiences, right? Like
Hmm.
you may not gain enough that day to leave with a passion forever, but you may gain enough that day that 10, 15 years down the road, you're much more comfortable. You
That's
may
right.
you may be that young adult in the group, even that millennial in college that says, "Hey, oh yeah, I can go fishing. I know how to fish." Because that one time they understand the basic functions, they have a little confidence. I hear great stories like that all the time. So kudos to the women in your family.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely,
Great job.
absolutely. I know. Yeah, absolutely. I think
Looks
there's a
like we got some
question.
questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I saw that pop
See
up.
somebody asked a funny one there. I want to get to that one. Oh, geez.
Oh,
Brian.
here we go. All right, Joe. Yeah, you can read the
Well,
question. What did you
my
spend your
first
first
game
game
check
check on?
and the silliest thing, they may have been two of the same. Um, when you're in the NFL, thank you for the question, by the way, Brian. I hope you're still watching. When you get to the NFL, that first paycheck you get is such a monumental thing because you've fought your entire life just to get to this one point, you know?
Yeah.
And back when I was playing, we didn't have PayPal or Bitcoin or however they're paying these guys nowadays. They would take a check and biweekly put it in the top of your locker, right? So you come in out of
Yes.
practice and they had a
Yeah.
check that was cut. And the first time I opened it up, my mouth dropped and my heart sank. And I said, "Where the hell is all my money?" It was Uncle Sam was taking it.
Oh yeah, you paid some taxes,
It
big
was
guy.
my first experience with taxes. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you what, even though I was very blessed to receive that first check, I was not fully prepared for it to be half gone by the time I got to it. Didn't know what Social Security was, didn't care what it was, didn't know what healthcare was all about, and I wanted the money. So I took my very first check, Brian, and I went out and I spent it on myself. I bought myself a watch. It was a Breitling. I still got it today. I still have that thing. I'll show it to you one of these days, Brian. It's my buddy. We go golfing from time to time. Great dude. Um, but I still have it. And looking back on it, when I took my first check, I wasn't sure if I was going to get a second one. And I went out and I blew it all on myself. I had buyer's remorse. I had some players on my team were looking at me like, "What? You're a seventh round draft pick. What are you doing spending all that money like that?" So probably
I
one of the
think
same.
the other part of the question is what's the silliest thing you bought?
Yeah, I mean that was pretty silly for me to spend all my money up front, but I was never one of these guys that needed a flashy car or rims or anything like that. But boy, did I fall into some scams.
So you spent your money on some scams,
Some
huh?
scams.
Yeah,
Never got anything tangible out of it. But when you're playing in the NFL and you have that visibility the way that we
yeah,
do, you're kind of living in a fishbowl and everyone knows your name and everyone knows who you are and they see you out on the streets and um, it's real easy for them to approach you with something. And I was approached many times by many different investment opportunities and I invested my money in some pretty silly ways, and I won't get into the details, but I threw a lot of money away on investments,
yeah.
trusting people I shouldn't have.
But it's funny because I told you about those three stories, the three questions I asked some of those guys about what was the biggest change in the game. But I've also gotten a lot of really great advice from some of those former pros and
Hmm,
about investments because I mean, you come into a certain amount of money that you haven't experienced much before, and you got to figure out what to do with it. So
that's right.
I've actually heard a lot of the same stories from all of my buddies too. That without going into detail, but it's kind of helped me a lot too because as bad as that is though, you learn a lot, right? You grow a lot. You learn a
Sure.
lot about people. You learn a lot about business. You learn a lot about trust, and you
Yeah.
learn a lot about friendships. So
Young people like us, well, I'm not young anymore, but when I was young and more money than sense, I, uh, I I didn't have any familiarity with money. We didn't come from money, so there wasn't anyone in my immediate circle that was familiar with it. And when I started getting money, I made some really bad choices with that money.
oh yeah,
Thankfully, it all worked out in the end, and I ended up getting those people out of my life and the right people in. But it does happen, and it
yeah,
happens to about 80% of the guys that play in this game.
yeah. That's insane. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Well, let's shift it up a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about Florida. I know we already showed the spear video, so we kind of let the cat out of the bag on
The
that.
the
But
video, it didn't have any audio. You might want to play that one again, man. That was pretty
okay,
funny.
I don't know if Charlie blows it in here on us, we'll go with it.
Yeah, I
But
got a comment here in the chat. There it is.
there it is.
You got going on, Joe?
I'm trying to practice using this thing. I got to get a feel for it. You got to really know your weapon before you take it to battle. So I'm trying to figure out what this thing's all about. Trying to get an idea of balance. I actually don't know what I'm doing.
No, I like the little coot sound in the background.
Yeah,
You hear that sound? That was
I'm
so
pretty sure
awesome.
that was Scott.
Listen, Vance, he makes all sorts of noises. Like he's the
Mhm.
most realistic noisemaker on earth. He does a squirrel, and you'd kill him if you didn't know for sure. I mean, he sounds just like everything that he wants to sound like. So you
That
and
was
I
funny.
mean, I'm assuming that you had never been alligator hunting nor hog hunting, right?
No, no.
Awesome.
Like I
So
said, I grew up in the West Coast, and I'm familiar with the West Coast animals. And even though you said boar are prevalent in that area, not where I was,
right.
not where I was growing up.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, and I guess it was probably of course, you knew, I think, in advance that you would probably get a spear, knife, or something a little bit primitive to use. That you were definitely going to be going back in time a little bit on the methodology, and like, but I don't think there's anybody more up to the challenge as you. I mean, because like honestly, when I watch the footage, because I'm the guy that's behind the scenes, kind of like, and I don't really look at all of it too much. Because our team is they're so awesome. Every one
Oh,
of
they're
them,
great.
Jameson was there, great.
It
Charlie,
was
Kate,
great.
all of them. And so, my job's pretty easy there because I know they're going to find the best. But when I started watching that, like all the raw footage and started piecing through it, the truth is I knew right off the bat that you were the perfect guy for that spear. I'm telling you, and I have done that so much in my life. Like I realize that it's a moment, right? Like it's something that it's you don't do it because you want to just seem macho or do cool. I mean, it's really a really ethical way to harvest a boar, when you're dog hunting. I mean, it's no different than a 16-inch blade on a knife, with a
Hmm.
spear, and that keeps you a little safer too. So I know you guys had some ins and outs here, but kind of walk us through real quick
Yeah.
that kind of what you were kind of going through when this moment went down.
Yeah. So when this was already day 3 now, what
Okay.
you just saw was day 3. And so day 1, they took me out on this machine and we went out with I had a suppressed 308 and we walked around and we went over to the feeders that were on timers. So when they went off, they were automatically expecting boars to come in. They didn't. But I got one on the first day, right? So I shot it, and then so I had little familiarity with what I was up against. Didn't quite see one as big as I did that day, though. Day 2, we went out alligator hunting, and they took me bow fishing, which was a great experience. I was hammered, by the way. I fell in the water. That didn't make the film. So day 3, I woke up with a hangover, and my phone wasn't working because of the water. The water had destroyed it. So I woke up early and I'm like, what are we doing today? I'm supposed to get on an airplane. And Grayson, who was the owner of the outfitter that we went to, Central Florida Trophy Hunts, great outfit. Want to give them a plug. He said, hey, you want to do something unique to this area? Something that you won't be able to do anywhere else? And I was like, yes, I do. Didn't
As a
tell me what
matter of
we were
fact,
doing.
because being hammered, falling into water, that's pretty common
Yeah.
in Florida. So let's do something different. Yeah, let's do
Oh man, I
something
shot a
most
30
everybody doesn't
pound
do.
black drum, man, with a bow and brought it in. Anyway,
That's awesome.
so we go out and he didn't tell me what we were doing, but I noticed that on the back of the side by side, he's got these dogs, and the dogs they've got Kevlar vests on and radio collars, and then there's a big spear there. And he said, all right, so what we're gonna do today, Joe, is we're gonna send the dogs out, and you're gonna follow behind him with the spear, and the dog pins him down by the ear. I'm gonna grab his legs. You come running in with a spear, and you kill him. All right, jump in. And I'm like, what? What are we doing? So no experience with it, had no frame of reference for what I was up against. And here I am walking around in the forest with the spear and a bunch of cameras filming me, right? What you didn't see in that video is that I abandoned the spear because when the dog finally got to the the boar, it was massive. I mean, this thing is massive.
Hmm.
And they were like, all right, Joe, go get it. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Even I have limits. So Grayson, the guide, he pitches me his 9mm, and he's like, let's go out and we'll see if we can get the dog. Well, don't shoot my dog, but you see if you could shoot it. So I'm like, that's way more my speed. All right.
Right.
So I take like 5 shots, and I saw dust come off of this thing's head as I was shooting it, and it takes off running. It still was running. Those things are like, the head was like bulletproof armor, man. So
Hmm.
it's kind of woozy in the corner, and the dog chases it down again, and I take one more shot and end it. But what you didn't see in the video was Scott handed me his pocket knife, and thing's still kind of alive, and I killed it
Yeah.
with the pocket knife.
Well, you went ahead and put it out of its misery
That's
and,
right.
and done it. Yeah,
And they
and I
took
don't want
some
to make
blood,
you.
and we wiped it on my face. So in the end of the show, I got blood on my face.
Well, I was getting texts real time, so I was kind of following along with some of that. And I don't mean to, make you feel bad or nothing, but both my daughters have killed a ton of pigs with a pocket knife before. Not to make you feel small or anything like that. But they're from the South,
That's all
Joe.
right,
What do
man.
you do? You know what I'm saying? When you
That's
grow
right.
up with pigs in the backyard, they kind of get used to them. But no,
Yeah.
that was awesome. And then I know we've got a lot to come on the alligator hunt. So what was the most unique thing? I mean, obviously alligator hunting is pretty unique.
Oh yeah.
In my experience, wherever you go in the country, and even in the state of Florida, with alligator hunters and guides, they all have their own way, right? Each one of them has their own way. Now you'll see some styles that kind of correlate a little bit, but each guy has his own little tricks and trades of how he likes to do it. Judge them, whether they're calling them what. So what was the one thing from the gator hunt that you feel like that you're most impressed with, that was most unique?
These first of all, the outfitters, Central Florida trophy hunts, they were so knowledgeable. I mean, this is what they do every single
Right.
day, right? And so when we got to the location, they're telling me this place is 500,000 acres where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And these cowboys come riding up and they say, "You guys here to hunt gators? Kill them all. One of them just got my dog yesterday." They're like, they kill the cows. And so they're somewhat considered an invasive species, not too unlike the boar as well. So they were very knowledgeable. And what I thought was really interesting was we're driving down this road that's the culvert is down below us on one side, and there's a canal on the other side. And these guys are like, "Oh, there's one. No, that one's too small. No, there's another one over there. That one's too small." And I can't even see them. I'm like, "What are you guys
Mm-hmm.
even looking at? It looks like
Right.
dirt." And so what they're doing is they're judging the distance from the eyes to the tip of the
Mm-hmm.
nose,
Right.
and they were doing it like boom, boom, boom. We know exactly what we're looking for. When we see it, we'll stop and we'll show you. And I'm like, all right, well, I had my GoPro and I'm filming stuff. I went back later on and I'm like, oh, that really was an alligator. Didn't even see it. But
Right.
these guys were so in tune and they were able to figure out just with a glance. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and remember now, when an alligator's floating along the water, you only see the nose and the eyes. You don't see the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the body.
Right.
So when we got to that first alligator, I was so impressed with these guys, and they're like, "Okay, there it is, right there." And I'm still like, "Where?" I have no idea what I'm looking at. They hand me the binoculars, and okay, there it is. So I thought that was really cool. That was such a great experience. There it is, 12 foot
Yeah.
3 inches right there, buddy.
Giant, just a stud gator.
12 foot 3 inch monster.
Huge. That's so
I'm
awesome. I'm so happy
6'4".
for
Look at
you.
that.
It's insane. And that's something that, well, I don't have alligators in the Southern Appalachians, and I think that, but I've spent a lot of time in gator country, so I understand them, and got a lot of friends that are professional trappers and guides and whatnot. But it's no different than any animal. A lot of times when folks don't have a certain species there that they're accustomed to, that they see all the time, it kind of things that you don't see every day, that they tend to have more value to you because they're new, right? So
Yep.
I've always found it pretty interesting. Like when I spend time in Florida, I come from a horse background too, and cows, and I like cowboying and
Mhm.
roping and rodeo and all that stuff. I spend a lot of time in the cowboy country of Florida, a part of Florida where most people don't go very often, right? The part of Florida where you were, and you find that alligators there, they're native. They're a really special, beautiful animal that's really important and integral to the entire ecosystem and all that. But they're just like every other game species too. I mean, it's really important to responsibly manage their populations, not just so that the ranchers don't lose cows, the cowboys don't lose dogs, but so that the alligator populations can really be sustainable, that they benefit, and that animal and habitat and landowner cohabitation equation kind of balances out. So, it's a
Yeah.
really
Thank you.
good
Thank you for
opportunity.
saying
And yeah, and we always wonder, what shows, what hunts or what trips do we want to do for Brotherhood Outdoors, and it's always like, well, we're always thinking, well, if we do this, we maybe get some criticism here. If we do that, we may hear. And the fact of the matter is you're going to get criticism a little bit in anything that you do
that. Yeah.
that's good, especially if you're trying. But for me, I try not to shy away from that. I want to stand up tall, and I want union sportsmen to stand up tall and really, educate, be a proponent of responsible conservation and wildlife management, and help folks understand, hey, you know what? Yeah, absolutely, man. alligator hunt may be different. It may not be something that's your cup of tea. You may be living in the Midwest or the Northwest or somewhere else, and you have no idea what alligators are like. You may think there's 2 in the country, or you may think there's 2 billion. But the important part is it's pretty special to go be a part of that and really understand that you're not only getting to experience something that's really world class and unique,
Oh,
but you're
definitely.
getting to really provide not only a service to a landowner, but more importantly, a service to alligators and the future of alligators in the state of Florida, right?
Yeah,
And
now
so
no, these
that
guys, they had a huge respect for this animal, and they
yep,
knew exactly what we were doing, and we had to pull permits for them. You can't just go out and shoot an alligator. You gotta have permits
right,
for
oh,
the
absolutely.
trophy ones, especially, and they're not cheap. So, the state and the counties are also making their money on the species as well, so they themselves are part of the conservation effort. And
Yeah.
I had to learn a lot about this species because it was something, like you said, that I what didn't have any familiarity with. And anyone that decides that they wanna go alligator hunting, I encourage you to do the same thing, because the more you learn about it, the more that you appreciate what it is that we're trying to do here. Not just going out having fun shooting an alligator. There's also some awareness being raised. I was a little concerned, posting any of this on my personal stuff too,
Hmm.
because we're homesteaders and I live in a community full of people that might not appreciate hunting so much. But at the end of the day, it's a decision that I made for myself. This is part of my lifestyle. This is something I'm interested in doing. And what an opportunity. I mean, again, just one of these things I will never, ever forget for the rest of my life, thanks to Union Sportsmen.
Well, we're actually the one that does. We're actually the ones that benefit. I mean, having the opportunity to bring amazing folks like yourself, who are a part of it, who are the biggest part of why we're able to do what we do and why we do what we do. So it's a real privilege for us. And you mentioned homesteading, so that leads me into something that's real important. I want to make sure we save enough time. I want to hear about this farm. I want to hear kind of the high level view of kind of what you guys are doing there. I know the family,
Sure.
the kids, everyone's involved. I kind of want to know what you got going on there on this farm.
Oh, I'm happy to talk about it, man. It's just such a beautiful and wonderful thing that I've got going on here. As with everyone else, in the middle of 2020, the pandemic hit, and my wife and I had a business where we had an apparel company, or have an apparel company, and we're selling apparel, sports related apparel to, I don't know, 400 locations across the Pacific Northwest. And when the pandemic hit and they weren't sure there was going to be a football season, nobody ordered products from us. So all of a sudden, our business is at risk of completely tanking. And we looked at each other and we said, you know what? This is what we do when tough times are happening, just like with everyone else. We just pivot. So we made a pivot and we decided to focus on ourselves and sustainability. And in that journey, we found several opportunities to teach and to help others achieve, even if it's just a small level of sustainability, like buying chickens or learning how to preserve vegetables. There are so many things, so many opportunities that you can take to teach. And, even though I'm not going to be making lots of money doing this, actually, my wife's pretty good at making money, by the way. I got a sugar mama.
That's
uh,
awesome.
uh, there are there's more to life than just making money, and this is a passion thing for me. So we live here on 20 acres, which is rare in Redmond. I bought this place back in 2007, and I get a phone call once a month from the Asian investors who are buying up all the land in the area. They want to buy my place. I'm not going to sell it. And if you go 10 minutes, you're in downtown Redmond. You go 10 minutes the other direction, you're in Snoqualmie Falls. I'm surrounded by rivers and estuaries, and there's beautiful hunting land out here. We have elk, we've got blacktail, we've got all the species of salmon that run through here. I get them in my backyard. I get Chinook salmon and chum salmon just spawning right there in my backyard.
Wow.
And we encourage people to come check out our website, which is pivotfarmco.com. We encourage people to, even if it's just something small, take a moment and learn how to be sustainable for yourself with the way things are. Remember when it was hard to get toilet paper? You remember.
Oh yeah.
Everybody remembers when it was hard to get toilet paper. We are offering an opportunity to just learn. Just take a moment and just learn from us. So that's what we're doing over there. My wife's doing such a good job with all this. I'm very proud to be part of it. And my children too. My children are they're learning how to be sustainable, and even in this city environment, there's, wherever you are, there's a farm somewhere. That's where you get your food. You forget sometimes where the food comes from. It's from the farms.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
and
thank you for that opportunity, by the way.
no, listen, it was one of the most important things. I mean, we're a outdoor heritage based conservation group, but me personally, I mean, obviously there's such a correlation in this country with agriculture and hunting and fishing, right? Like so much of the access for the average American throughout this country to public lands or any lands, private or not, there's agriculture going on virtually everywhere that we set foot, and to do a lot of the things that we enjoy doing as it relates to hunting and fishing. So that correlation, that symbiotic kind of relationship that happens there between, sustainable farming, sustainable wildlife and conservation practices, it all goes hand in hand, man. And I don't think there's any more group that kind of is looking for the same things, because, your true outdoorsmen, are really tied to the land. They leave it better than they found it. They really matter. And the farmers are the same way, and I'm very, very proud to come from agriculture background myself. Most of the background I came from was timber. My father was a logger, forester, and in addition to being a politician, but it was really serious. I noticed, like, it was a really big deal when I was a kid. Like, we made a living, a part of a living off timber, but if I went around the road to cut a load of firewood that I was selling for money and I cut the wrong tree, he was upset, really upset with me, because in his mind, that tree, it might not have been the right time in that tree, right? That tree's life. Like, that tree, if it was healthy and it really had a good phenotype, and he felt like, hey, the acorns off that red oak are going to produce really good red oaks because that one's a really good one. He didn't want me cutting that one. He wanted to cut the old bad ones, the nasty ones, the old ones, the ones that were crooked. And it was kind of my first introduction into that mindset. And, you fast forward, and I've been in the cow business and everything else. And currently, my brother and I and our families, we run a small commercial Dorper sheep operation where we're doing, farm to table or kind of situations, and we're selling direct to restaurants, organic lamb. And so I'm right there with you, man. We're not fully sustainable, but absolutely appreciate that. And I just know what a special opportunity it is for your family, and you guys must really enjoy that.
Oh,
and,
we
you
do.
guys get to work together, right? Like,
Yeah,
your
that's a
kids
big
learn some
part of
work
it.
ethic. Your kids
Yeah,
learn how
we're
to work.
homeschooling also, so we spend all day, every day with them. And look, it's a responsibility for us, this day and age when kids are spending most of their time on their device in the room. A lot of us aren't getting a chance to see each other in person anymore. The same groups of content come up, and they continue to come up. And so when you see something like this, like what you're doing or what Union's doing or what I'm doing, it's different, and it's a responsibility for us to continue to promote this type of lifestyle outdoors, finding ways to be sustainable, promoting, the sustainability of a species. So I'm right there with you, and I think that anyone that has been listening in this long and is tuned into our channel and will continue to tune in to your channel, they're on the same page with you.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a great opportunity for Union. I feel like this is a great opportunity for anyone who's tuning into this to just just go out and just try something new. I've never hunted gators, I've never been around a boar. Don't spend much time in Florida. Tried something new, loved it, had a great experience. Never learned how to can, so now I know how to can asparagus. And now I know how to process chickens. This is so far from where I grew up, but I'm having the time of my life, man.
That's really special. That's really awesome. I actually think we have a short clip regarding your farm, so let's play that real quick.
My name is Joe Tafoya. I'm a former defensive end from the Seattle Seahawks, and I'd like to welcome you to Pivot Farm. We have 20 private acres in Redmond, Washington. We have experiences, a garden, we have chickens, we have horses, goats, and we'd like to invite you and your family to come out and experience it with us. You can find us at pivotfarmco.com. Can't wait to see you and your family.
Oh, that was beautiful, man. Thank you for that. Awesome.
That's awesome. No, it's so cool because there's a lot of folks that could be tuned in or may watch later, or whatever, that may come from heavy farming backgrounds, and they look like, well, yeah, I mean, I grew up with chickens, I grew up with turkeys, I mean, yeah, whatever. But when you think about the people in this country that have no idea where their food even begins,
this is an interesting story because we live in the middle of the tech industry with Amazon and Microsoft. Nintendo's right around the corner. We got Boeing here. So there's a lot of industry, and they're importing people from different countries like India and China. And a lot of these people have lived in a 1-bedroom flat with their family on top of them. They've never even been to a farm. Yeah. So, I mean, those might be the outliers, but there are also a lot of people whose children don't know where their food come from. Right. Never even thought about or even considered where that apple they're eating comes from, or how it was grown, or the dirt that it was grown in. And, to be able to stop and think about what potential pesticides can do to you, how this tiny little seed can go into germination and turn to a big plant. Those little things right there, those little teachable moments are what we're after. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the same thing goes, for, the outdoors. The same thing goes for wildlife and silviculture, forestry, all those things. I mean, it's really easy to be out there and be consumed by the action, if you will. And, I mean, it's not like network television hasn't done a really good job of helping hurt that, where we make all the glory about the harvest, all the glory about this. And, you've got so many folks that are kind of doing it to be the center or to get the spotlight, and really, there is no fame or fortune in this game. The only fame or fortune in this game is really the success lies in the message, right? And we were just talking today about legacies, and the legacy I want to live is that the guy that cared so much about these things that I just dedicated my life to them and sharing them with others, and I just think how special that is. And if you take time to really realize why these opportunities are there or why you have these opportunities, it makes you not only really, really appreciative, but it gives you an understanding that allows you to be more at peace with things and lets you understand kind of your story and where you want to go and the direction that you may want to go, but also how you can also give back. And I think it's really cool how you guys are taking this small 20-acre farm and really rolling this thing up into something that is extraordinarily educational to a lot of folks in your area or wherever. So super awesome. I'm digging it. I'm all in myself. I think it's great.
That's great, man. Yeah. And honestly, if it were up to me and I could just be doing one thing for the rest of my life, I'd probably just keep doing what I'm doing now. And I'm so happy. I'm in such a great spot in my life, being outdoors, being with my family. I take my son fishing almost every morning out on our creek. And if we're not there, we go out with my friend Bob. We go out into the rivers, and we have Lake Sammamish and Lake Washington. So there's a lot of really fun things to do. The one thing we can't do around here, which is a little disappointing, is bow hunting. I mean, bow fishing. There's not a lot of it around here, man. That was fun. I had more fun doing that than I've had doing anything else.
I love to bow fish. I also didn't think I would enjoy it that much. I'm a big archer. I spent a large part of my life exclusively archery hunting all over the world, but I'm with you on that. Especially the last couple of years, every year we do a trip to Venice, Louisiana, and down there we catch big bull reds and tuna and just have a big time. But here lately we've been doing a little bow fishing at night down there, and it's the first time that I ever got to bow fish for saltwater species as well. And it's just kind of cool. You're riding out on a couple $100,000 airboat, and the music's playing, and if you want to have
it's like a video game, right?
Yeah, and if you want to have a beer, responsibly, it's not a huge deal. You got captains and mates and everything working, and there's 6-8 buddies around the front of the boat, and the music's pounding. It's in the middle of the night. There's nobody around, and there's just a lot of peace with bow fishing, I think. And the thing is that it's really hunting, right? Like, not only do you have to know where the fish are, You have to be good at patterning fish, but
Yeah, that's right.
there's angles and there's approaches, and
Hmm.
whoever's driving the boat has to know what they're doing, right,
That's
at a
right.
high level. But then you, as a shooter, like I don't know how you felt about it, but I
It
feel
was
like
tough.
yeah, I feel like I'm a pretty accomplished archer, and I bow fishing will humble you if you go into it too cocky, for sure.
The first one I got was a sheephead, and I shot it on accident. The thing was only about that big. Shot it on accident because I was shooting so far above everything else. When one swam by, they said, "All right, just aim way lower than you think you need to aim because the refraction in the water and the way the light's hitting it. Just do that." So I shot I mean, talking like 12, 13 inches below,
Yep.
and it hit it, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" So then I got the idea, and so I started
Yep.
aiming. In responsible drinking, that's a little bit of we didn't really do that. We probably drank a little too much. Like I said, I fell in the water. Still had a great time. We kept on going. I took my shirt off and we just kept. What a good time, man! That was.
Yeah, well, I'm
See,
pretty sure you
I
don't
said I
find
got
too
some
many.
family on here. They're saying what's up
Oh,
to us. Yep,
oh,
that's my
sweet.
my brother and my uncle. That's my uncle Dino. So my uncle Dino took me bird hunting. Is my very first hunting experience, and we went out and got some pheasants. So, like I said, whenever there was an opportunity for me to jump in and go with somebody to do an outdoor experience, I was in. And I think, it's the drive and the motivation that you need if you want to get back to it later on in life. And I
No,
find
that's awesome.
that's part of what made me successful in playing football. It was just the drive and the motivation to do that and to take it further than normal people would normally take it.
Yep. Well, yeah. I mean, and that isn't that the beauty about
Right.
nature, though, and the outdoors is that it's virtually limitless, right? And I honestly, Joe, I think that one of the reasons that it, it's such a dominating force in my life is I mean, it's not the adrenaline or the excitement, any of that. It's everything that you're talking about. It's that ability to kind of come full circle and decompress and just enjoy that. And it never leaves you. I mean, and if you don't have it, you long for it. And it's what I tell people. I was like, if you just get a dose of it, you may not even like the act of hunting. You may not even enjoy the challenge of pursuing a species in certain weather or certain terrain. But I can promise you this: you'll never get bored if you do, right? Like, I mean, there's so many things differently to do. Even if you just hunt a white-tailed deer, for example, there are 57,000 ways to hunt a white-tailed deer in the same spot, right? So
Mhm.
you can try new things, and I think it's those unknowns and it's those challenges. Like I've dedicated my whole life to hunting, fishing, the outdoor heritage, and I can't tell you that I'm good at anything really. Like I'm serious, and I say that because yeah, I may have more experience and maybe even more skill than the guy beside me, simply because I've done it more, right? But when it comes to comparing myself to the bar, and the bar being all the opportunities and the possibilities, I'm still so juvenile in it. I don't think in my entire lifetime I could ever enjoy it all, because I'm not looking at it from the perspective of, okay, I went to this location, I harvested this animal, I checked that box, and now I'm done. I'm moving to the other, right? I think if you go into this and you're really doing it for this, and you say, I'm here, I'm experiencing this, I'm experiencing what this animal's world has to offer, right? I'm meeting new friends, new people that know more than me, and I get to learn from them, and then I get to sit in a new place and watch the world go around me at 1,000 times slower pace than it was before. And who really cares about harvesting the animal? It's enjoying what
Right.
the act of pursuing that animal really provides.
It's
And the
almost
people,
meditative, isn't it? Like you
yeah,
go
yeah,
out there and you find your zen, you find your center when you're out there. And for a lot of people, that's what it's really all about. Like I like to fill my freezer full of meat. So that's what I'm in it
oh yeah,
for. But at the same time, as long as I'm out there and in my happy place, I find zen, like you said
yeah.
earlier, all the worries go away. Um, but it's something I will continue to promote. It's something that I want to continue to do and teach my children, and anybody who decides that they're interested, I'm happy to teach what I know about it as well.
That's awesome, and I
And it's
do
so cool that
appreciate
we
that.
have this platform to do it on now, right? I mean,
Yeah, and like
and
I said, man, we're just so fortunate to have you and folks like yourself that care so much about what we're doing, and really willing to put the time and the effort in and volunteer your time and commit your time like you are now, just to share this with folks. You know, there's nothing. I mean, we're just a little Union Sportsmen's Alliance. I mean, there's no fame in doing this podcast. You're doing this because you value what it's centered around, right? And I know that, and that's what's really special. So I just can't think of a better note to kind of close this thing out on than just to thank you
Cool.
for participating with us. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being an advocate for our heritage, you know, and all in all, and thank you for everything that you're going to do with us and for everyone else out there in the world that
Oh,
has
man,
a
it's
question,
my pleasure.
or needs someone to help or a mentor. And I just hope that I get to meet a lot more folks like you as I travel down this journey. And
Yeah, thank
you
you.
know, so yeah, for the audience, you know, make sure that if you haven't tuned in to Joe's episode on our YouTube channel, make sure you go to YouTube and you can find us. Just search Union Sportsmen's Alliance and you'll find the Union Sportsmen's Alliance page. And there's a lot of goodies on there. And Joe, there's a lot of good stuff to come. And you probably got the inside track on a little
Yeah, I
bit.
do.
We're really cranking this digital content out.
That's fun.
And YouTube. Well, we do have one last question. I'm gonna have
Okay.
you answer it. I can't leave it. Do you hunt with anyone you played football with?
Now, there are a lot of guys that hunt. You know, NFL players and former NFL players are a little bit prima donna, you know. You get a lot of guys out there that want you to set the whole thing up for them, and I'm not really that way, you know. So I don't hunt with any of the guys that I used to play football with. I do hunt with my family. Like I hunt with my brother, go fishing with my brother. He lives in Northern California, so we go back and forth a lot. There are a lot of guys that do hunt. You mentioned Dan Scuda earlier. There's a ton of guys that do this. But I just find that if I have to be the one to set it all up and if I've got to cater to you and make sure you have a good time, I can't myself have a good time. So
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm
That's
happy to
fair.
share my experience, you know, what I know. But if you're expecting me to roll out the red carpet for you, that ain't me.
Well, hey, that's fair enough. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I think
Good question,
people
Michael.
say-
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. There are a bunch of pro guys that hunt. You know, I know a lot of them. I'm kind of excited maybe about down the road. Some of those guys getting more involved. I like to pick their brains, and you know, there's a lot of dynamics and a lot of stories there, and it's those stories and like your grandmother that I'm most concerned, you know, that I'm most interested in, and so yeah, there's a lot of fun to have along the way too. So, well, Joe, I thank you again. Hey, all the audience just couldn't say thank you enough and appreciate you. We're going to work through the kinks of this thing. We're learning, we're trying to roll out all of our story and the stories of such great folks from labor and friends of labor and just partners and friends of the USA to really, you know, provide a real high level experience for our members and potential members and just the public to engage with us, learn more about things that they didn't know about, step outside of their boundaries, you know, in a few areas, and ask some questions to folks that they may not normally get the opportunity to do. And so, like myself, and so it's been a real pleasure, man. And I really look forward to spending some time with you in person. And you can rest assured that when, because it's not if, it's when I get close enough to that farm, I'm coming by for a visit if you'll have me.
Please do.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So
Please
check
do,
us
sir.
out on YouTube, everybody. You get a lot of cool, funny caveman type stuff from Joe Tafoya on our on YouTube channel. So, Joe, tell
Right
everybody
on.
we said hey, we love you guys, and peace out, brother. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you. That was fun, man. Great opportunity there.